You have $650 million, and nobody in this laundry room knows it. The dryers hum around you, steady and warm, the way they've hummed for 27 years. Lint clings to the cuff of your work jacket, soft and gray. You stopped brushing it off years ago. The jacket's older than half the tenants in this complex. A woman folding towels 3 machines down asks if you can look at the coin slot on Unit 6. You tell her sure, no problem. You always tell her sure. Nobody here has ever asked what these machines are worth, or what you're worth. Maybe that's the point. Maybe it never was. Denise, the property manager, waves at you from the doorway, clipboard against her hip. "Thanks for coming out," she says. Same as always. She thinks you're the guy who fixes the machines. You are the guy who fixes the machines. She just doesn't know you also own the lease on every one of them. This building, and 41 others. She's run this property for 11 years. She's never once asked to see the lease paperwork. Why would she? The smell in here never changes. Hot lint, fabric softener, a little bleach underneath it. It's the smell you built a life around, whether you meant to or not. Currently, more than 1 in 3 American renters live in a building where someone else quietly owns the laundry machines. Almost none of them could tell you who. You could tell them. You just don't. A quarter drops into the steel collection box on Unit 6, small and metallic. For a second, that sound means more to you than the number on last week's portfolio statement. You lock the laundry room door and walk out to the van. Same faded blue paint it's always had. None of this existed 27 years ago. Not the buildings, not the number. Just a folded piece of paper, once, and a decision almost nobody was watching you make. 1998. The Meridian Laundry Service office smells like carbon paper and burnt coffee. Same as it smelled all 3 years you've worked there. You're 26, and Tuesday is your regular route. Your Uncle Wendell got you this job. He worked the same route for almost 20 years, an hourly technician who knew every machine on it by sound. Cedar Court Apartments, 64 units, is the last stop on Tuesdays. The man who owns the lease there is retiring. Meridian's owner mentions it almost like an afterthought. Somebody could buy the machines and the lease outright, instead of just servicing them for an hourly wage. Wendell never did. Not once, in 20 years. He liked the work fine. He just wasn't big on paperwork, and he never saved much past a small pension. You have $4,800 in a savings account, most of it 3 years of overtime. It takes you 11 days to decide. The paperwork sits on your kitchen table that whole time, next to a coffee mug you never wash. Maybe you'd have found another door eventually. Or maybe Cedar Court was the only one that was ever going to open. Buying the lease means you're not an employee at Cedar Court anymore. You're the owner of 8 washers and 6 dryers, in a basement that smells like mildew and quarters. That's the whole business. That's it. You sign on a Thursday in the Meridian office, with a pen that skips halfway through your last name. The number didn't matter. The architecture did. That night, you fold the lease into a small square. It's soft at the edges before the week is even out, and it rides in your back pocket for months. People who hear this story later assume there's a lottery ticket in it somewhere. A lucky number. A stroke of timing. There isn't. There's a folded piece of paper, a signature, and a decision nobody thought was worth mentioning at dinner. Not because it was clever, because nobody else wanted it. The check for Cedar Court's first year comes in a thin envelope. It sits on top of the electric bill for 3 days before you open it. $1,400, after parts and the water bill your lease requires you to cover. $1,400 for 11 days of deciding, and a signature that shook a little. You do the math twice, just to be sure it isn't a mistake. You don't tell anyone the number, partly because it's embarrassing, partly because there's nobody in your life who'd know what to do with it, including you. Wendell asks how Cedar Court's treating you next time you see him at the shop. You tell him fine. He nods like he already knew. It's the way people learn a place after 20 years, inch by inch. Some part of you expects him to say something else, some piece of advice he'd been sitting on, some reason he never bought the lease himself, back when he had the chance. He doesn't. He just asks if Unit 4's still eating quarters, and you say yes, and that's the whole conversation. Maybe he was waiting for you to ask first, or maybe there was never anything to tell. Wendell retires 2 years later with a small pension and a fishing boat older than the machines you now own. He gives you his old route sheets on his way out, like they're still worth something. He never brings up Cedar Court again. Whatever this becomes, it doesn't come from him. Not the money, not a hidden plan, not some secret he was saving for you. He handed you an opening. You're the one who walked through it, alone, with $4,800 and a folded piece of paper. The second lease comes 18 months later. 31 units, 2 miles east, paid for with money Cedar Court had already made. Nobody throws a party for it. There isn't one to throw. You don't mention this one to your parents either. Some habits start early. It's a basement, a stack of paperwork, and a Tuesday that looks exactly like every other Tuesday. By 2003, the grease under your nails hasn't changed. You just hold the lease on 5 buildings now, instead of 1. By 2006, it's 19. You've started reading a building's lease the way Wendell once read a machine's hum without even meaning to. The uniform stays the same. The route stays the same. You're still showing up with a bag of tools and grease under your nails. Same as any other Meridian technician. Except you're not one anymore. Not really. Nobody at any of these buildings treats you differently. Nothing about you looks any different, and that's the whole point. Same truck, same jacket, same thanks for coming out from whichever property manager happens to be in the doorway that week. You start keeping the paperwork in a fireproof box instead of a kitchen drawer. That's about the closest thing to a celebration this business ever gets. Here's the part most people get wrong. Whenever they hear where this ends up, they assume there was a moment. One deal, one building, one number that changed everything. There wasn't. By 2012, you hold leases on somewhere close to 180 buildings across the region. Not one of those leases, on its own, would mean anything to anybody. It's the same $1,400 a year, repeated quietly, close to 180 times over. The returns keep compounding into each other in a way that's almost impossible to feel from the inside. How many buildings does it take before a number like that stops feeling real? You still fix a broken coin slot yourself most weeks, not because you have to. Somebody has to, and it might as well be you. The number behind all of it would stop most conversations at a dinner table. If you ever said it out loud, which you don't. Not to Denise, not to your family, not to the woman folding towels 3 machines down. Whatever that number is, it can wait. It's waited this long already. 2014. Your mother calls on a Sunday, the line a little staticky, worried about a car repair bill. $340, she says, like she's confessing something. You tell her not to worry about it. You mean it. The money doesn't go out that afternoon or that week. You could cover it 1,000 times over without noticing a thing. Somehow that never makes the phone call any easier. At the diner 2 exits from Cedar Court, you order the $6 breakfast instead of the $9 one. Not because the extra $3 matters. Ordering it any other way feels like admitting something. Even to a waitress you'll never see again. Your cousin's wedding is in October, out of state. The family group chat is splitting a rental house 4 ways. $200 each, somebody writes. Easy. You read it twice and say you'll figure out your own ride. Nobody argues. Nobody asks why. That's almost worse. At the hardware store, the guy behind the counter asks how business is holding up this year. He's rung up your parts for a decade. You tell him steady. He says that's good to hear, real good, the way people do when they remember the rougher years. You don't correct him. Maybe it's a habit from the 11-day version of you, still doing math nobody asked him to do. Maybe it's something else, something you haven't found the name for yet. 2 days later, you send your mother the $340 from a different account than the one she'd guess. No note attached. She thanks you like it's a big deal. It isn't, and it is, and both of those are true at the exact same time. The portfolio statement sits unopened on the counter for 4 days that same week. You know roughly what it says. You still don't open it. So why do you still count out exact change for a $6 breakfast, when the number in the other room could buy the diner outright? 2016. A letter arrives on plain letterhead. It's sitting on the kitchen table, under the sugar bowl, for 2 days before you open it. A firm called Harrow Bridge Partners wants to talk about your portfolio. Private equity firms have poured billions into laundry and vending assets over the last decade. They're chasing exactly the kind of unglamorous, recurring cash flow you've been quietly building since 1998. Somebody's finally given it a name. Somebody finally wrote a number next to it. You call the number on the letterhead from your kitchen standing up. It's the same way you've always taken calls that matter. The man on the other end talks fast. He's got words like aggregation and portfolio consolidation. Words that have nothing to do with quarters or lint traps. You ask him to slow down, twice. That night, you dig the old lease out of a drawer you haven't opened in years. It's still folded into roughly the same square it was in 1998. Softer now. The ink's a little faded near the date. You think about Wendell. He's been gone 3 years now, buried with the same fishing boat parked behind his daughter's house. Whatever this turns into, it was never going to come from him. He handed you a door. He never once told you what was behind it, because he didn't know either. You remember him teaching you to listen to a dryer's motor for a failing bearing, tapping the housing twice with a knuckle, waiting. That's the whole inheritance, really. Not money, just a way of paying attention. Worth more than either of you understood at the time. The firm's opening number, when it finally comes, is bigger than anything you'd let yourself imagine. Bigger than that kitchen table back in 1998. You don't say yes right away. You don't say no either. Maybe you needed the time. Or maybe some part of you already knew what you'd decide. You put the folded lease back in the drawer, underneath everything else. Then you go check on Unit 6 before it gets dark. The closing happens on a Wednesday in November. You're not in a boardroom for it. You're standing in your own kitchen, folding a load of towels. The dryer down the hall still ticking as it cools. Your phone buzzes once, on the counter, face down. You finish the towel in your hands before you pick it up. The email is from a lawyer you've spoken to 4 times. Total. It doesn't use an exclamation point. Lawyers rarely do. Wire confirmed, it says. 82% transferred. 18% retained, per your instruction. Below that, a number, written the way a number looks when nobody's trying to make you feel anything about it. $650 million, total, after everything. The sale, the retained stake, 27 years of $1,400 checks compounding into each other. You read it once. You read it again, standing at your own kitchen counter, one towel still unfolded on the pile behind you. There's no lottery ticket in this story, and there never was. The folded paper in your pocket wasn't luck. It was a laundry lease for a 64-unit building, carried for 27 years. Wendell didn't leave you anything. He just told a 26-year-old about a job nobody else wanted. The number doesn't land like a win. It lands like something you'd already quietly known for years. Something finally written down, where somebody else could read it too. The phone goes face down again, next to the sugar bowl. The towels folded and set on the pile. Somebody could call. Your mother, maybe, or Denise, or nobody in particular. Nobody does. There isn't really anyone the number would make sense to yet, not tonight. Somewhere between Unit 6 and this kitchen counter, 27 years happened, one Tuesday at a time. None of them individually meant anything at all. That's not humility. It's just what compounding looks like from the inside. Quiet, slow, and almost impossible to notice while it's happening to you. 2025. The dryers hum around you, steady and warm, the same as they've hummed for 27 years. You're back at the Cedar Court laundry room on a Tuesday afternoon. Tools in hand, fixing a coin slot that isn't really your job to fix anymore. Denise waves from the doorway. "Thanks for coming out," she says, same as always. You tell her it's no problem. You mean that too. The money stopped needing you a long time ago. You don't come here for it anymore. Not really. You come here because it's the 1 hour of the week where nobody expects anything from you. Not a decision, not a signature, not a number. Just a coin slot that's stuck, and a Tuesday, and a pair of hands that still remember how to fix it. A quarter drops into the steel collection box, small and metallic. The same sound it's made since 1998. It still means more to you than the number does. It probably always will. Your mother still calls about car repairs sometimes. You still send the money from the account she'd never guess. Some habits don't unlearn themselves just because the number behind them changed. Your sister asked you once, a few years back, why you still do this. Now that you technically don't have to, you told her the truth. It's the only job left where the value of the work has nothing to do with the number, not the size of it, just whether it gets done. Somewhere in a fireproof box at home, a folded piece of paper sits at the bottom of a stack, soft at every edge now. The ink almost gone near the date. Nobody who sees it would guess what it turned into. That's sort of the whole point. You lock the laundry room door behind you, same as always. You walk out to a van that isn't the same faded blue one anymore. It might as well be. What's the folded piece of paper in your own pocket right now? The boring, forgettable one. What might it actually be worth 27 years from today?